As you've probably seen, there are a ton of documents flying to and fro in the Stanley Moss Courthouse related to Britney's conservatorship. The sheer amount of pages and documents is making it difficult to keep up with what's going on, but I will try my best to give y'all the lowdown on what I understand to be going on. Basically, the outstanding issues in the case all relate to money. There are yearly accounting reports that have to be filed on conservatorships in California. So that's the first major category. Lou Taylor was historically responsible for filing those each year in the conservatorship. Now I'm sure it's going to fall onto like Michael Caine or someone else, but it was Lou Taylor for the first 12, 13 years. So the accounting at issue now is the 12th accounting, and that one goes all the way back to the year 2019. There will still need to be approvals on the annual account filings from 2020 and 2021, but it seems like there's this bottleneck going on that forces them to hear the 12th accounting first. There are several points of disagreement with that 12th account current. That's the 2019 accounting. There's several points of disagreement, including the fact that Lou Taylor apparently used Britney's money in a personal lawsuit against an alleged fan back in 2019. So other than the accountings, the second major issue left for Judge Penny to decide is whether to force Britney to pay Jamie and his lawyers for their work during and after the conservatorship. So the court documents we're going to be discussing today relate to two documents filed by Britney and her team. The first document is Britney's objection to paying Jamie and his fees, and the second document is a declaration filed by that former FBI agent, Shireen Ebadi. Basically what happened is in March 2021, Jamie filed this petition for the court to force Britney to give Jamie and his lawyers her money.
Money, 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 money.
A few months goes by and Britney fires back with an objection to that petition. She basically says,
"Not today, Satan.
I'm not paying you and your lawyers, hell no." That was in January 2022. That same day that Britney filed those objections, Shireen Ebadi, that former FBI lady, files her declaration that basically exposes the whole scheme. She mentions the surveillance, she mentions New York Times articles, she mentions self-dealing, abuse, trauma, and much more. So now, Jamie's basically saying that the declaration from the FBI agent and the objections that Britney filed on the same day should be partially, if not entirely, struck from the record, and they should not be considered by the court at all. So here's his reasoning for that. He starts with the declaration from the former FBI agent. He says there's basically 5 separate reasons that the FBI agent's statement should be stricken and not considered by the court. Note, the argument is that each one of these reasons, standing alone, is reason enough to strike her whole entire declaration. So Sloppy's first argument is that the testimony in Ebadi's declaration is inadmissible, regardless of whether Ebadi is acting as a fact witness or an expert witness in these proceedings. Sloppy says the court already determined that she's not an expert witness under the statute, so that only leaves the option for her to get her declaration in as a, quote, fact witness. But Sloppy says that won't work either, because for Shireen Ebadi to be a fact witness, she would need personal or first-hand knowledge of the allegations that she made in her declaration. And remember, that stuff was like surveillance, bad faith, self-dealing, and all that. So Big Sloppy's basically saying she wasn't hired on until after the time that all that stuff even happened. So it's impossible for her to be a, quote, fact witness. So because she's not a fact witness and she's not an expert witness, she has no first-hand knowledge of the incident, we shouldn't take into consideration anything she said in that declaration. The second of the 5 reasons that Sloppy and his team think that Ebadi's whole declaration should be stricken is sort of related to that first reason. Sloppy and team say that Shireen Ebadi relies on inadmissible hearsay evidence as a substitute for her lack of personal knowledge. So basically Sloppy's saying, because she didn't have personal first-hand knowledge, now she's trying to get in hearsay evidence that's not admissible. Hearsay is defined as a statement offered as evidence to prove the truth of the matter asserted. So Sloppy is basically saying she's trying to sit here and prove the truth of the matter asserted on things that she didn't even see a first-hand experience of. So you can't basically use an expert witness to sit there and try to get your inadmissible hearsay in. And so that's Sloppy's argument, essentially. He argues that Rosengart is trying to get in inadmissible hearsay evidence into the courtroom through this witness. Also, interestingly, Sloppy mentions tabloid articles, and it's very funny to me that he's referring to a New York Times article as tabloid article, but that's something I'll keep in my back pocket. So the third reason that Big Sloppy and company argue that the declaration should be stricken is because issues addressed in the declaration go beyond the relevant scope of what is up for decision by the court. He basically says that the declaration raises irrelevant allegations. There's only a few limited issues before the court that the court needs to decide on, and he lists 4. 1, the 12th accounting. That's that 2019 one. 2, Lynn's fee petitions. 3, Sam Ingham's fee petitions. And 4, Jamie's fee petitions, which of course include his lawyer fees. So Big Sloppy is sitting here arguing to the court for the court to pay him. Just so we're all clear. The fourth reason that Sloppy and team think that the declaration should be stricken is because of a technicality having to do with the signature. Now, in lawyer terms, technicalities such as this one would be considered a procedural issue. So this fourth reason that they use is because in California courts, you're supposed to use specific language having to do with your signature on your notary block. And essentially, Shireen Abadi did not use the appropriate signature language. So as you can see here, it says, a witness's declaration executed in another state must state the witness declares under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of California that the foregoing is true and correct. And basically, Abadi just says, I declare under penalty of perjury that the foregoing is true and correct. So there's a little clause in there that's apparently supposed to say under the laws of the state of California. She didn't put it in there. So basically, Sloppy's trying to get the whole declaration thrown out.
Nothing new, nothing changed, same old shit.
And the final reason that Jamie and Big Sloppy argue that Brenda should strike the FBI agent's declaration is because the court already determined that Jamie cannot get the business records from Shireen Abadi or her company. So Sloppy is basically saying now that since Jamie doesn't have the opportunity to get all these business records from Abadi and her company, then somehow Jamie's due process rights would be violated if the court lets the declaration in as evidence. I actually really disagree with this reasoning because Abadi has volunteered to be deposed, and it seems like Jamie and Sloppy are just bitter that they can't get more discovery. I also think, as a side note, it's very hilarious that now all of a sudden Jamie is worried about his own due process rights, considering he worked hand in hand with Team Con to deny Britney her own due process rights time after time after time, but I digress. Now he's ready to be worried about his own due process rights. Wasn't never worried about Britney's anyway. So the first part of Jamie and Sloppy's filings related to that declaration filed by Shireen Abadi. But the other part of these recent filings relate to Britney's personal objections to Jamie and his sloppy lawyers getting their fees. They argue that since Britney's objection to Jamie and Sloppy getting paid relies so much on Shireen Abadi's statement, if Shireen Abadi's statement is faulty, then so is Britney's objections. Big Sloppy and Jamie are arguing because Britney relies on that allegedly faulty declaration, that her objections should also be stricken. Just to put it in another way, Jamie applied to have all these fees paid for him and his lawyers. Britney objected. She said, hell no, I'm not paying you your crap. And the reason I'm not paying you is because you illegally surveilled me. You fraudulently started this conservatorship. You self-dealt, meaning you benefited illegally from this conservatorship. And you didn't follow all the rules of the conservatorship. You were filming me and doing all this stuff, right? Then Shireen Abadi, a former FBI agent, on the same day that Britney objected, Shireen Abadi said, yeah, she's right, and here's all the proof. Well, Big Sloppy and Jamie are saying not only should Shireen Abadi's declaration be stricken, but also Britney's objections should be stricken too, because she relies on this inadmissible declaration. I'm not sure I buy all these arguments. I think the strongest argument to me is that little technicality, the little procedural issue about if it is, black and white required that Shireen Abadi needed to put under the penalty of perjury in the state of California or the laws of the state of California or whatever it was, then yeah, she should correct that. But I don't think it makes the whole filing inadmissible. I think she can just refile it with the correct notary block. That being said, I'm not really sure how Brenda Penny is going to decide on these issues. It will most likely come down to, arguments between Matt and Big Sloppy yet again, and Matt Rosengart will probably have to give us a little bit more of a clue how they're going to respond to this whenever he does file his response to this motion to strike. I will be going back to doing lives, don't worry. I just wanted to kind of get us caught up on a shorter video. So I will talk to y'all soon. Facts ain't defamation. Love you, Mina K. Bye.